think 90% of the world would agree that the tabloids have kind of gone a little far with me lately, and I think it's time, I do need to speak up a little bit. You try not to respond to trash, because that's what it is, but, when I think they've crossed the line.
The year 2000 was 10 years ago, and I refuse to believe anything otherwise. But the Y2K aesthetic, as it pertains to fashion, has been revived in the past year or so. Crocheted tops, McBling, streetwear, the whole jazz, even low-rise jeans are back. It's especially been revived online with discussions about lookbooks and fashion icons. It's interesting to me that all the fashion aesthetics that have become popular in the past year and 2 years, like cottagecore and dark academia, all center on the past, but usually the more distant past that we're separated from in terms of the culture of the time. Some of us were children at that time, so our recollections and memories of the things that were going on are from the remnants of media and reality show clips and stuff like that, on Fangirl, Instagram, or Pinterest or Tumblr pages. The images and stuff of the people who are now revered solely as icons aren't always discussed in the terms of how somewhat traumatizing they were and how negative the media was at the time and the damage it had on so many young women. There were record-breaking reports of poor mental health among young girls trying to achieve the carefully curated and exclusionary body ideals of the time. The celebrities themselves who were being upheld for being the epitome of beauty were also being subjected to humiliation and public shaming, public scrutiny by the media. And it's ironic to me that some of the media companies that were championing this body shaming, Weight Watcher, women have to be XYZ lifestyle are now the proponents of body positivity and inclusion. And it's very clear that they're doing it because of the bottom line. People care about this stuff now, so they're just going with the wave. There hasn't really been much accountability to say, we used to publish this nonsense and we're gonna make things right. We're gonna publicly apologize, pay some people that you've humiliated. I don't know, some sort of reparation, even though they can't undo the domino effect of the things they publicize. They can't go and rectify all of it. You can't now just all of a sudden be all for body positivity when in the past you used to paparazzi celebrities and shame them and out them for having cellulite and stretch marks, having all these women's traumatic, sometimes life experiences, difficult life experiences just blasted and all for the world to see. But yeah, it's a wonder whether that shift is because, all of us collectively are changing, or it's just media companies caring about their bottom line, because why would you actually care about your consumers? It's not like they're people. Britney Spears is an example of an icon whose fashion looks from Y2K that are referenced as Y2K fashion. She faced utter ridicule from the media, and then now all of a sudden everyone is showing support for her, which rightfully so, as she's going through her battle in court over her conservatorship. But this has been going on for a long time, and it's only recently that more and more people are now reaching out, and she's no longer a meme as she was in the media of people being leave Britney alone, and now people are advocating for her to speak out about her mental health issues, and also fans showing support and people coming out with their own stories and stories about how conservatorship as it works in the law now needs to be sort of reformed and it doesn't work. So in the 2000s, the media was solely focused on whether it was when she was a child and they were literally sexualizing her as a child, humiliating her in public about her divorce, about her marriage, about her children. And all of that was overshadowing the fact that, she was a child star, which, you can have whatever opinion you want, but that amount of fame, that amount of money, that young is bound to warp a brain. Amazing talent she still had, that would almost sort of never come into play of but she's amazing in this regard, and it was always about shaming her. And the same could go for people like Lindsay Lohan, Janet Jackson after the Super Bowl incident, Miley Cyrus when she was coming into her own after Disney, Megan Fox, who wasn't taken seriously in Hollywood. The list goes on of women who have been done wrong by the media. Now when we look back at pictures of them being oh my god, they look so amazing, it must have been so amazing to grow up in that time with so many fashion icons, and not really thinking about all the mess they went through, it feels like it's maybe a little unfair. Maybe we want to turn the rose gold tint down just a little bit and maybe step back into that and talk about it a little bit so that we don't recreate the same patterns all over again. There is always the debate, right? Who cares about celebrities? But these people exist. The whole celebrity industry, while it's like phasing out and they're being phased out by influencers, people who are in the spotlight exist to give us a template or shape a template of who we think is bad, who we think is good. The shaming of these women in the media in Y2K in that decade was to show us that women should be feminine in this way. Women should conduct themselves like this in public, speak to the paparazzi like this. And anyone who conducts themselves in any other way towards the media, towards us, towards the gods who will make your career, will be shamed and will be publicly humiliated. I guess the same precedent goes in our regular lives, where it's like, if you don't carry yourself a certain way, then you are going to face the consequences. Now we are in a phase of, you can do whatever you want. At least people are trying to move towards that, but it wasn't like that back then. And I think even though saying back then feels weird because 2010 is only 10 years ago, it's still 10 years ago. It's still a while. I told you time is a myth. But yeah, a famous woman being shamed for her mental health issues, her body insecurities, maybe her relationships, can make a regular person going through those same things think, well, how can I reach out to my family about these issues when they buy these tabloids, these magazines, they watch these reality shows and mock people going through the same thing? Even though some people consider it a tad bit dramatic or whatever when people say, this celebrity coming out inspired me, or this celebrity saying that they've gone through this inspired me, it does help when a person who has so much light shown on them is supported through a hard time. Even though we don't want to admit that it matters, we don't want to admit that we care about what is going on with celebrities and influencers, but the reason people like me talk about it so much is because it does, I don't want to use this phrase, but it does trickle down to general public perceptions. It may not be because we care about the actual individuals, but it's the discussions around those individuals that then come down into how we behave and we treat each other. But now, like I said before, the media is moving towards this female empowerment, body positivity stuff, which girl boss, girl power, stuff, which sometimes is a little pandering, is a little infantilizing. Like, there's still the exclusion of a lot of people who look like me, but it's a lot better. But to make progress in anything, it's important to examine, past practice and past events, because if we push the ills of the 2000s under a rug, they're gonna come up at some point. Or even in this admiration and this, return of the Y2K aesthetic, there is already the erasure of black women in the whole listing of icons and lookbook. It's already been whitewashed on sites like Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok, which you don't always have to, but there is a certain level where you have to engage with any sort of media meaningfully so that the negative parts of the past don't rear their head again. And it would be a disservice also to the women who are being upheld as style icons and fashion icons of Y2K and the Y2K aesthetic if we don't talk about the toil that was associated with being put up on this pedestal, because it is also a lot different, where it's not like now where a celebrity can go on their Instagram and start an Instagram live and talk to their fans and answer questions and control their own narrative. I think it's a difficult concept for me especially to grasp, just because of how everything is now. It would be a big disservice just to revere this time as like a great utopia of fashion and music and culture without thinking about all the bad stuff and how we're gonna prevent the bad stuff from happening again. So I mentioned earlier that Y2K aesthetics seem to be driven by a desire for simpler times, and kind of feels ironic that we're living in a future that the past media, like 90s, 2000s, 80s, you name it, fantasized about what's life gonna be like in 2030 and 2020, from doomsday films to futuristic, and yet we are constantly looking back in time, looking into the past and digging stuff. And I've seen many internet posts of people being like, maybe it's the collective trauma of being in a Panasonic. We're all trying to get out of this mess, and we all see that the future doesn't seem like it's going to be any better. So we want to be nostalgic, and we want to be going back all the good things that we remember as good. I mean, even some different media companies are tapping into this. There's an iCarly revival right now. Like, where am I? What are we going to do when we run out of decades to recreate? In conclusion, we can't dismiss the past because it is very easy to recreate negative patterns in fashion, in media, in everything. I have a few recommendations for video you can watch that discuss this topic further in the description, some articles I read for this video, and you can also see links to support this channel through a donation on Ko-fi. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment your thoughts, let me know what you think. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.